The red river hog is an animal I am ecstatic about, and today we are actually building a little habitat for them, not only them, but also for the colorful mandrill. Welcome everyone to Castaway Keys. Alright, so here we are! Oh my gosh! So, the red river hog, as you guys could probably tell from like the animal overview and everything really, is probably one of the best designed animals in game. It is like absolutely stellar the amount of work that Frontier was able to put into this animal, and it really does show. So because of that, I wanted to give them the best damn habitat that we could fit in here into Castaway Keys. So yeah, I'm just very excited for it. So it's very much based off of, I believe it's a Florida zoo, I believe it's Jacksonville. They actually have this very interesting habitat layout for their Barbarossa. And I really wanted to replicate that because it's like a very shallow riverbed with these really nice raised areas. And I thought that would be a really awesome way to incorporate like a whole bunch of new biome diversity, terrain diversity, all that kind of stuff. So that's really what I wanted to do. So I go throughout here, and please keep in mind I am using Freebuild. I know not too many people approve of that. I got someone like angry at me in the Reddit the other day because I used Freebuild and I was calling the building system in this game good. Do you guys think the building system in Planet Zoo is good? That's our question of the day. I personally think it's like stellar. But I'm sure other people might not agree, might get angry at me for saying so. But I'm using that just so I could do like these small tiny things. It's honestly not so much a thing that influences gameplay, but really it's just a time saver. I mean, this entire speed build is about like 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. Just stretched out. I was able to condense it into like a 20-minute video, which is cool. But honestly, I love to use Freebuild just because it saves me so much time. And honestly, I'm sure it's the same for all of you guys who use it. It's just such a wonderful tool to have in your tool belt that I really wish Planet Zoo would implement some of the stuff that it does officially. Maybe you could have it as like an advanced builder's kit or something. And then like people who understand the building system can use it, and they kind of understand the repercussions of, you know, what really happens with it. Regardless though, you can see I am working on kind of creating that initial layout by starting off by doing that little kind of border around the water. So I'm using the stalactite rocks all throughout here because they have this really beautiful texture. And I'm using those in conjunction with the actual tropical rocks because it creates this nice harmonious look to it. And on top of those rocks as well, I throw in the mulch pieces just so I could get a little bit of terrain up there. Obviously, I could probably use painted terrain or something, but the mulch pieces just honestly give me a little bit more hands-on control, and I'm able to do a lot smaller pieces up there, which is always great to see. But beyond there, I'm starting to add a lot more plants up on top of those planters, just so I'm able to establish the palette early on. At this point in the zoo, I kind of already established the palette, but even for these smaller habitats and stuff like that, as you keep a consistent palette throughout your entire zoo, one thing to always keep in mind is that it's okay to stray from that for certain areas. So let's just say for this one, I'm using a lot more of those bromeliads, well, not really bromeliads, sorry, those Attenborough pitcher plants that we just got in the DLC. They have this nice yellowish twinge to them. Twinge, I guess? Is that a real word? I don't know. But that's something I really wanted to include over there because it helps to brighten up the area a lot more. And I just love how it all looks together. Look at those kind of like just adorning the top over there. Really helps you feel like you're walking through like a canyon and stuff. So I should also probably talk about this mix over here. This is a mix that a lot of zoos tend to do. This is a red river hog and mandrill mix. This is one of the mixes that they actually have at the Bronx Zoo. You guys might hear me talk about the Bronx Zoo like almost in pretty much all of my videos. And that's just because it's one of the best damn zoos I've ever been to. It's just so full of inspiration. You'll see a lot of that come into play. But they do share a mixed species exhibit, and I never realized how small the mandrills are compared to the red river hogs. So once we actually do get into the cinematics, you'll kind of see like just what I'm talking about. The female mandrills are smaller than the red river hogs, which is so crazy to think about. You'd think like this cool monkey would be a lot bigger than this stupid little pig, but no, it's quite the opposite. So you can see I'm starting to decorate the outside of the habitat as well to help frame it. I'm using a whole bunch of different palms, especially those new Kentia palms. Those are so gorgeous. And what I'm doing beyond there is also using a mix of different rocks towards the edge of the habitat as well. Since this is a little bit more of a steeper hill and we're working with like kind of semi-aggressive primates and pigs, I wanted to make sure that guests wouldn't be able to get into this habitat. Obviously, if a guest fell into like the gibbon habitat, they would probably kind of just toy with the person or they just run away. I fear mandrills a little bit more, especially since we have a little bit of a male in here. So I'm like, okay, we're going to put down a real fence, but we'll get there when we get there. One of the other things I wanted to do here as well is just really make these small little climbing frames, because of course, since we do have a mandrill in here, well, we have several mandrills in here, but they would require climbing areas. So I'm kind of like, okay, let's do a few little unobtrusive platforms throughout here. I'm just using the classic Planet Zoo logs and climbing pieces just as a way to help it feel like, you know, the mandrills can kind of climb up on these. Maybe they could kind of look down on the habitat. I'm throwing a few enrichment pieces up there as well. Some bedding just to help keep these guys a little bit more active and help them use this area a little bit more too. And yeah, that's really it. One of the other things I do as well is do a custom holding area. I don't actually do the backstage of this. I'm not really doing backstage in the zoo. It's not really something I really feel like is super important for this build. But you can see I'm making it kind of follow in line with the rest of that holding area back there. This would honestly be just one big super complex where like all the keepers would kind of congregate. It's kind of where they would keep all of their storage for like, you know, all their food, all of their like preserves for their animals and stuff. Maybe they even keep some like ambassador animals back there too. That's something I want to do again that I haven't done in a while, especially back in Wildwood Zoo. I had those like keeper areas and like those presentation areas. I want to see if I could do that again. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for the sloth, but I'm going to see if I can mod that in and kind of work with Hex a bit to get that to work in Planet Zoo Plus. I feel like that'd be a really fun thing to include. But moving off of there, I'm kind of like, okay, how can I cover up that area right there? So I honestly just continue the faux rock work back there as well. And I think it kind of settles it nicely. It's not really an area you would see. So it's honestly an area you could get away with doing stuff like that in. So moving off of there, I'm kind of like, all right. I've worked on like the entire habitat. Really, I'm going to work on like the inside of the habitat now. Well, no, the guest area of the habitat. So I'm like, what kind of plants can I throw in here? And I've noticed I really haven't been using that bird's nest fern or whatever they call it. But I started to use a little bit more of that. It's a really awesome piece. I was saying this in the piece overview. It feels like it's more of a temperate plant if you kind of sink it into the ground. And I feel like that's something I really do want to do later down the line. So that's going to be something cool to see. Now I'm also working on this little guest area as well, so I have a little bit of a seating area, and I complained about this on the forums, and other people seem to think I'm crazy, but I've noticed that in my sandbox zoos, my guests don't use the benches. I have no clue why. Like, maybe it's something to do with, like, Planet Zoo Plus, where it's like, oh, guest needs are always fulfilled. I don't know. I feel like maybe they should use the benches more often, because I use benches in zoos all the time. But if I'm just like sitting there looking at the Red River hogs on the bench, I would do that. I don't know why the guests don't do that. It's so weird. But one of the other things I do as well is use Lion signs. Lion is a very wonderful creator in the Planet Zoo community. He has this lovely modular sign set. He actually has a few of them. But I'm using a few of those all throughout here. Just the circle ones. I feel like that's a good enough way to kind of establish a theme. It's a nice bright red color, which I think contrasts so well with everything else happening in here, especially since we have so many greens. I'm like, okay, I gotta have some nice reds in here too. What I also do over here is that seating area. I realized I was like looking away when I was talking about like, you know, the guest seating and stuff like that, so I realized I didn't actually build it when I was talking about it, but I'm building it now, so that's good. So I'm using a whole mix of those classic Indonesian pieces. I really do love this like red color I came up with. It's just a really nice contrast. Again, getting some more reds in this park is exactly what I want to do, because it helps contrast with the rest of the park so well. It creates a nice little focal point. So doing that right there and kind of working on these angles, just trying to make sure that it feels a little bit more flush with the building itself, and making sure that it feels like it would be able to support itself, most importantly. A lot of the time when I do like these little even if they're fantasy builds, I always do like to make sure that I take into account a bit of logic. And especially when it comes to, can this building support itself? Can this building serve a purpose? Can guests enter this building? Yada yada yada. And I think they actually can enter this one. I have these little beams on the inside, which may be a little bit intrusive, but I've seen that in plenty of other zoos before. It's going to be a little bit of a congested area, but it's fine because it's just like a little seating area. What I also do around here is just add some more seating where I feel like we need it, and some of the other facilities like, you know, benches, bins, and stuff like that. I also love this fence, so we actually made this for the gibbon overlook, so I kind of edited it a little bit so that it works on both sides, and I really do love the look of it altogether. It's using the Indonesian pieces as well as the Arctic wood, so I thought that was a really unique look when all things are considered. I feel like they're just meant to be together. Again, with like the original holding area for the gibbons as well, I was like using the Arctic wood because it just fits so nicely, especially when you're working in like a tropical place. You would have that kind of like dilapidated wood, so I loved how that looked. One of the other things I wanted to include over here is a little bit more color for our holding area. So I was like, alright, I want these nice contrasting blues for this building, and I think it came out pretty good in the end. So I'm using a whole bunch of different pieces, again, just mostly the Indonesian set because it just works super well. So I'm using a few bunch of those and just creating this nice little balcony. So it's kind of like a bay window, and it just looks super awesome altogether. So one of the things I can recommend you guys do if you guys want to get a little bit more accustomed with this advanced building is build in sections. You can see I'm only building one thing right now, but I have this plan in mind where later, once it's done, I'm going to duplicate it on itself, and you'll see that happen right here. Perfect. Oh my gosh, talk about timing. And that's one of the best recommendations I could give to you guys, because building kind of in that style and building with keeping the future in mind is the best way to build in Planet Zoo, or in Planet Coaster, or in Minecraft, or in whatever you're building in. It applies to literally all sandbox games. So I just really do love that stuff. It turned out really awesome. I'm using a few more of those Indonesian bricks right down there as well, and I also do this little bit of a corrugated, what do you call that? Kind of like a garage door, I guess. So I have that little piece in there, and I think that turned out really good in the end. Obviously, the red river hogs and the mandrills would require separate holdings. You really wouldn't keep them in a confined space together. I feel like you'd either have like bacon bits or like primate jerky right after that. I don't know. One of them would definitely mess up the other if you gave them the chance. But however, they can cohabitate, and they do have interspecies enrichment, which is really great to see. So one of the other things I do as well is decorate this little ridge over here. So this is going to separate kind of like this ridge from the rest of the island, and I love what I did with this tree over here. So it's a strangler fig tree, and I have it be kind of overlapping the path area right here. Maybe later down the line I'll actually add some like signage to that and have it be like hanging down. I feel like that'd be a super cute thing to have and include right there, but that's really it right there. But besides that, I just start to add a lot more, what do you call that stuff? A whole bunch of plants. Yeah, I can't believe my name is Leaf and I forgot the word plants. Can you guys believe that? I really can't. But I just add a whole bunch of that stuff right there, just to help it feel like you're in the middle of a jungle. Because on the other side of this, it's going to be a relatively built up area. It's going to be kind of like ruins, kind of. So you'll see that in the Asian Water Monitor speed build. Now keep in mind, I'll tell you guys once we actually do get to that build. But I also want to include a lot of bamboo in here, include some palms, specifically the foxtail palms. Those guys are native to like Southeast Asia and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that I include a lot of those more than anything else. And I still love these fig tree bushes. Like, they are so incredible for creating these lovely, colorful little bushes. And it just sells the tropical vibe so well. But that is really it, my friends. We do a little bit of extra detailing on here. And then without further ado, we're about to enter the cinematics. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are always the best. Oh my gosh. Thank you guys so much. Of course, it really hasn't happened yet, but thank you guys for the wonderful just being here for this DLC release. It's been a really fun one. And I hope you guys are having fun with the pack already. It should be a few days out, so I hope you guys are making some lovely memories with it, just like these little red river hogs are making right now. Thank you guys so much one last time. I can't wait to see you all in the next speed build. Take care. Be sure to participate in the giveaway if it hasn't ended yet. I don't think it should. So go check that out. Last but not least, thank you guys so much for watching. Really do appreciate it, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next episode. Take care, and have the most wonderful of wonderful days. Goodbye now.